Imagine you're at home and you get a text from your boss that says, "We need to talk tomorrow." So the first thing you think is, "Oh no, I've messed up," or "Am I going to be fired?" And then you think, "I can't even sleep tonight. I'm going to be worried about this all night." Or we could have a regulated response and think something to ourselves like, maybe this is an update on a project. I don't have enough information yet. Or you could simply tell yourself that no matter what happens, you'll be able to handle it. Hi, my name is Michelle. Welcome to our channel, The Freedom Habit. And today I'm talking about regulating our emotions. And I want to read this. So, what is regulation? So I looked it up and I want to give you a correct definition. It's actually your nervous system's ability to return to a calm, grounded state, emotionally, mentally, and energetically after being triggered or overwhelmed. So, regulating isn't about like avoiding stress. When we get triggered, and we're always going to be triggered, it's about how quickly we can come back to ourselves. For many, many years when we were living in survival mode, we were actually, our emotions were dysregulated. And I can think of so many examples of of how my emotions were dysregulated for years. One of the things I can think of is, when I get overwhelmed or really angry, fearful, I cry. I cry. And I hate that. I hate that. If I'm angry, I want to be angry. And if I'm overwhelmed, I just want to feel overwhelmed or fear. But my body has this tendency, if I feel too much of an emotion, then I would cry. That's exactly how my emotions were dysregulated. And, since I've been going through this awakening and working on myself, I'm finding that, I'm catching my triggers quicker. I'm noticing them and I'm working on them and I'm beginning to regulate my emotions. The thing about dysregulation and being in survival mode is we were never really taught how to deal with our emotions. So what we did was we numbed them. We would, this leads to a lot of addictions. I know that's what I did when I was feeling overwhelmed. I would go and numb myself with opiates. That was the drug of my choice many years ago. So yeah, I mean, these are things that happen. When we don't know how to regulate our emotions, we can end up, with anxiety, with, numbing. We'll emotionally shut down or we'll leave the relationships, go off to ourselves. I mean, there's so many different things that we do instead of actually stopping and regulating our emotions. So what does that mean? It's taking a pause. It's taking a pause when you get triggered and noticing, observing the emotion instead of automatically reacting. We pause, we notice the emotion, and we choose a conscious response. We're not just reacting, we're not overreacting, and we're staying true to ourselves. So what can happen, and we get little practices of this all day long. Let's say you're driving to work and you get stuck in traffic. We can go off on that pretty easy because it happens every morning and every evening on our way home from work. So getting stuck in traffic can really send us into a spiral at times quickly. So what can we do? We're sitting in traffic, and these are practices. These are giving us little tidbits of ways that we can learn to regulate our emotions so that when we get to the big things, we know how to control our emotions and we're not just spinning off like we used to. So yeah, we could be sitting in traffic. We could tell ourselves something like, this gives me a few extra minutes to just enjoy time to myself. Maybe I'll listen to a book I've been wanting to listen to. Or, maybe you're driving and someone cuts you off and that can, you can overreact from that. That can have a certainly you can react to that, someone cutting you off. Well, maybe there was an emergency in their family and they're driving like that, or maybe they're late for a meeting or late for a flight, you know, I don't know. I don't know what it is, but what we can do is we can decide how we're going to respond to someone cutting us off or sitting in traffic or getting bad news. Whatever the case may be, every day, the more we practice and practice, the better we get at regulating our emotions. And the further we get out of being in survival mode, which is really one of the most important things, and just getting our bodies, our nervous systems back to being where they should be, where they were always meant to be.
If you enjoy our content, you might want to dive deeper and check out the 2 books that I've written. One is called Unleashing Destiny, which is a deep dive into manifestation and how our brain works to help us manifest. And there's also Believe the Best About Yourself and Your Life, a guide to living beyond childhood trauma. So please check those out. And also you can follow me on Facebook under Boyd Townsend.
Okay, so now you're thinking, how can I regulate my emotions? What can I do? Well, there's a lot of things you can do. There's some instant things you can do, like there's some techniques. The vagus nerve, there's things on YouTube you can look up. And you can do these exercises with your eyes, and it only takes a few minutes. You can do it right in your chair, and it helps reset your nervous system. You can take a walk. You can journal. You can maybe call a friend. I mean, there's so many different things you can do. Maybe do some exercises. I mean, find something that works for you. There's breathing techniques, like the vagus nerve with the eyes, and the breathing techniques are great, great when you need something like right away. Maybe you're at work and you can feel yourself spiraling. So you want to just go into the bathroom and do that vagus nerve exercise with your eyes, maybe do a quick breath work, technique. And, if you can't go for a walk, those are some things that you can do. So yeah, find some things to help you regulate your emotions so that next time you have to deal with a trigger or some bad news, that you'll be able to respond in a conscious response and save yourself the trouble of spiraling. We don't want to do that anymore. We are beyond spiraling. So, all right, I hope I've given you a couple techniques, maybe explained regulating to you and why it's important and why it's good. Why, it's good to have practice. So, I hope you have a great day. Thanks for joining me.